Thank you all for coming to our Brown Hall Candidates Forum. This is the continuation of what Dr. York had started with the Know Your Neighbor program. Years ago, he started this possibility for people to talk to each other about anything. And in this time of a divided nation, it's really important that we have a chance to talk to our neighbors. So thank you for coming. That's why we set up cookies and cider after the event, so that you can stay, talk to each other, and to the candidates. So I want to welcome you, and I want to thank the Bucksport Enterprise, Don Houghton and Sandy, for hosting this and for understanding the importance of this kind of event. Now, tonight we have about 35 people in the audience, but we also have it live streamed on YouTube. So over the next few weeks, we will be seeing that number go up toward the election day, and so there will be many more people watching this. So most important thing, according to Don Houghton, for me to say is the bathrooms are down the hallway. There are 3 of them, so take note of that. I want to thank the Elm Street Congregational Church for giving us this venue, for the volunteer work that they do on technology. Thank you, Lori and Corey, making this possible to go on YouTube. I want to thank all the people that make cookies and bring the cider and all the candidates. This is really a community event. So, the volunteers, did I forget everybody? Don? Yeah? Okay. And of course, I want to introduce our moderator, Rob Carmichael, who will be facilitating tonight. So thank you all. Here we go.
Well, good evening. As Catherine said, I'm Rob Carmichael, and I'm going to try to moderate this session tonight, and I hope it goes as smoothly as the ones in the past have gone over the last few years. First, I want to thank each and every one of you who are stepping forward to either run for re-election or run for the first time. Not a lot of people do this. It's really important. It takes a lot of courage to run for public office in any setting, and you put yourself out there, so I thank you all for being willing to step up and serve your community as you're doing tonight. And I would mention that I hope you're out campaigning, and you've got a lot of signs out there. I have the history of probably setting a record for losing an election by 1 vote a few years ago, and I know one of the reasons why I lost it is the fact that I wasn't out campaigning and wasn't really putting my best foot forward. So I hope you're out there campaigning, and I hope you don't run into the same thing I did. The purpose of the forum is designed to foster an open, respectful dialogue on any number of issues, but get a better understanding of what the candidates, who the candidates are, and some of their thoughts about what they think we need to do in the town of Bucksport, both in the RSU and the town council. It's going to be a question and answer structure with time limits set for each question. I want to thank George Schelling in the front row, who's going to be our timekeeper, and he's going to put a card up for all the candidates that'll give you the time for the question, and then he'll do a red card when there's 15 seconds left. Yes. And that red card will tell you there's 15 seconds left for your answer. I will try to be respectful to your time. I'll try not to cut you off mid-sentence, let you finish, but I hope we can try to stay as close to the topic and the time as possible. Again, I hope you'll keep your answers as much as possible focused to the topic, and I'll help try to steer you that way. And I know sometimes you'll want to get in some thoughts in there that may take us a little off, and that's fine. But if we could stick as close to the topic as possible, that would be great. And I'm going to ask the questions by alphabetical order, alphabetical order, and I'm going to start with the RSU folks that are running for the RSU. We'll start with the 2 candidates there. But first, I'd ask that you each introduce yourself and talk a little bit about why you are, what motivated you to run for the town council, what unique skills or experiences you bring to the role. We'll start with the RSU. We'll start with the RSU. So, Mr. Frazier, would you like to go first, please?
Thank you, Rob. Well,
I'm sorry, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. You all set, George? All right. First of all, I have 27 years of experience as a classroom teacher. As a matter of fact, I had Ryan, I was his second grade teacher. That's, okay, we won't talk about age now. And I also have been on the school board for 13 years. So that's a lot. And one of the reasons I'm running is because you learn a lot with experience. And it takes several years, sometimes your 3-year term, to really get a good handle on how the school board works, how budget process works, when you have an expulsion, the things you legally can and cannot do. It takes a long time. Second thing is this year we have some very familiar people in new administrative positions. Dr. Josh Tripp is our new superintendent. Aaron Ward, this is his 5th year here at Bucksport, but he's been 3 years as an assistant principal and athletic director at the high school, and last year he was the principal at the middle school, and this year he's the high school principal. At the middle school, we have Beth Dickey, who this is her first year as being principal, and we have a brand new assistant principal and athletic director at the middle school. With an inexperienced administration like that, even though they are familiar faces, I'd hate to see an inexperienced board, so that's why I'm running again. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Stackpole.
Thank you. So I'm Ryan Stackpole. I teach automotive over in Belfast at the Waldo County Technical Center. I've been teaching over there for about 11 years now. And before that, I was actually a mechanic technician in a shop, and I still do some of that stuff. I'm running for school board. I thought it kind of came up in a conversation with some friends. They said, you ought to do it. I said, I don't know if I have the time. They said, no, you really ought to do it. It'd be really good to have someone with children in the school district. My son's in 1st grade this year. And I'm also at the tech center I work at. I'm part of the MEA Association leadership. So I have some experience from that side, but I thought I'd run to support the students and the teachers in the school district and just put maybe a fresh set of eyes on some stuff in the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let's start with the first couple of questions, and again, we'll stick with the RSU first and focus on those folks. What do you see as a new innovation needed by RSU 25 right now from your perspective, Mr. Frazier?
Well, that's a tough one because we have had several new innovations within the last couple of years with esports, with a robotics team. We've tried to get as many students as we can involved and not going through 4 years of high school and saying, well, I've never was involved in anything. As for new innovations, I really don't have an answer for that because we have so many things going on right now anyway with the athletics, the robotics, the esports, like I said. So, but probably in the middle of the night, I'll think of something.
Thank you. Mr. Stackpole?
Oh, thank you. Kind of trying to think the same thing, new innovations. I know Bucksport's pretty on top of stuff, the robotics team, like Scott talked about, and a lot of that stuff. And I think some of it goes back to necessarily do we need some of the new stuff or is some of the old stuff still relevant, and we maybe need to look at that before the new stuff comes in, right? Make sure it's vetted, make sure it's quality stuff. Especially in the automotive industry, I'm used to things changing so rapidly and so fast that a lot of times the basics are missed. And I especially teach my students, start with the basics and build up from there. You can always learn something new, but if you skip the basics, it's pretty hard to jump back to them. Simple solutions, right?
Thank you. Maybe we could expand a little bit on vocational education. It's obviously a very important topic. People are talking about it nationally, the need for more vocational education, the importance of it going forward. Are there, and we have the Hancock County vote take. Would you talk a little bit about your thoughts around increasing the opportunities in vocational education, how it relates to the education, core education at Bucksport or RSU 25?
Okay, I could talk all night about this one because I'm on the HCTC Advisory Council and have been for several years. Anywhere between 40 and 50 students from Bucksport High School go to Ellsworth, the HCTC, and they get a fantastic, I don't have a list of everything that we offer there, but we do have a welding program that is satellited at Bucksport High School. So everybody from the county comes to Bucksport High School to do the welding. And this year, we lost our carpentry program for a couple of years because of lack of interest. But this year, Sumner High School is offering it as a satellite. I have for several years tried to get an electrical and a plumbing course going, and when the surveys go out, there's no interest. And it's sad because I don't think the young people realize the need for those skills and how much money they can make doing those skills. And I think Ryan would agree with that 100%. My son, way back in, 1995, went to HCTC, and it was the best thing that ever happened to him. So I support the trades very much and would like to continue being on the HCTC Advisory Council. Thank you.
Mr. Stackwell?
Thank you. It's going to be a hard one to follow, I think. But I do think the trades are very, very important in showing students what is out there. I feel like a lot of students that end up at my tech center, don't see it or haven't thought about it until they're out there for a tour or we talk to them about the opportunities that brings. I take my students on a lot of trips. We go to different dealerships, different things like that, and until they hear someone talk about that a technician can make 6 figures or better a year, it's very hard for them to grasp that concept. The same thing is, it's not a grease monkey job anymore. When we talk about, I'm sure Steve will talk about electric vehicles, but when we talk about electric vehicles and EVs and hybrids, a lot of that stuff is more technical and computer diagnostic and working with your hands and your brain than it is getting dirty, changing brakes, changing tires and stuff like that. So there's opportunities for every student out there that wants to try something different, try to work with their hands, and I think it's really, really important. I know we've seen a huge increase this year over students, and I'm sure HCTC has as well. But I think it's really, really important to show those kids early that those opportunities are out there. Thank you.
And along those lines, do you feel that more vocational courses should be offered at Bucksport? You mentioned, I think, one that was satellited over, but should there be more at Bucksport?
The difficult thing with that is time and space, and it's already, HCTC already provides that. So we have the opportunity, as many kids that want to go will go. It's a hit out of our budget because we have to pay Ellsworth tuition, but it's worth it, and we don't care. If that's the pathway these students want to take, we will support them. But because they have the equipment, they have the space, they have the educators, it would do no good to duplicate that. We might as well continue to just go down to HCTC. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. A few years ago, there was a lot of talk about bringing back the trades in the younger grades and bringing back shop class and stuff like that, but a lot of those spaces have been used. A lot of that equipment is gone, and the cost it would take to put that back in would be quite a bit. HCTC has a wonderful facility, getting the students down there, getting them exposed to it. They do a really good summer camp too for the younger grades, maybe making that more accessible to some students to get them down there and get them exposed early on. I think they do 8th grade summer camp, and getting those students interested a little bit earlier to realize, okay, this is something I can do and something I can plan for. Because when they get to be a junior and senior in high school, it's really hard if their credits aren't lined up just right to take that program even if they want to. They have to have the right credits. But there's some new legislation that allows multiple pathways to education. And as long as the credits are aligned, they can take those trade programs and get math or science or some of the other credits they need at their sending schools. We just did a bunch of work on it last year at school, A lot of the schools are starting to get on board with that, to show alternative education resources.
Sure. Yep.
Just to piggyback on what Ryan said, students can earn college credits while at HCTC, and I'm sure Waldo County also, which gives them a heads up. So that's very important.
Thank you. One of the most controversial topics, and I think throughout our country right now, is the issue of books in the classroom, in the libraries. What are your thoughts on? And I want to phrase this correctly. I don't want to ask it as a yes or no question, but the philosophy of banning books, or what books are in our libraries, in our school system. I want to talk a little bit about your thoughts around that whole topic.
Well, as of right now, we haven't had any problems with banning books, but I want to knock on wood. I hope we don't. I wouldn't be for banning books at all. I love books. I love to read. I don't know how much more I can say about that. I would not be in favor of banning anything. Maybe we have to set up a policy so that if some parent said, I don't want my child taking out this book, but I found the best way to get a child to read something is to tell them they can't. Yeah, don't you dare read this book, and next thing you know. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stackel?
I think I'm going to have to echo kind of what Scott said there. There is a ton of books out there, but also there's only so many books out there, and to limit access to certain books seems kind of crazy. I think they should have access to everything out there. I mean, they do anyway. They get online or something like that, they can find it, they can read it. So they might as well be able to read it in a setting where they can talk to someone about what they're reading and learn to understand it and gather their own opinions.
Thank you. And finally, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing RSU 25, or any number of issues facing RSU 25 right now?
One of the issues is keeping our budget so that the towns are not feeling strapped, yet we're providing the best education that we can provide for all of our RSU 25 students. That is something we struggle with every year. We hate to see cuts. We hate to see teachers to keep numbers down so the ratio of teacher and students is as low as possible. We've had to let some teachers go and let some programs go, but that is a very tough decision. So that's one of the hardest things as a school board member to do.
Brian?
I mean, it's going to be kind of an echo again. The school budget is one of the biggest things that our tax money goes towards. So it's going to be kind of the biggest issue, and no one wants to see things or programs cut. We want to provide as much as we can, but it comes at a cost, and what's that cost going to be, right? Being on the other side of that is kind of interesting, but at the same time, we're paying for that. Like, what are we getting for our money? Where's our money going? Is there better ways we can spend it? And there's other things like grants and stuff like that that can supplement some of that, but finding that information and getting it at the right time is always hard. So.
Yes.
Something that a lot of people don't realize, the RSU budget, our per pupil cost is about $2,000 per student below the state average. And we've worked hard to do that for many, many years.
Anything you want to add? One of the things that, well, and probably I should flip-flop so you're not always following, sorry. But obviously the population growth and population, more students would help with a lot of what we could provide. Any thoughts around what the town can do or what we can promote in the town to grow our population, student population base?
Well, that's something that the high school principals do every year, whoever it has been Josh and now it's going to be Aaron. They go around to all the local towns and talk to the 8th graders. We have a slideshow. We have an open house that we invite them to. And believe it or not, we have a record number of tuition students coming into Bucksport from local areas, even Blue Hill, which is, yay. So, we're very proud of that. That's revenue that we love. We have a lot of reasons they come to us. We're not just a sports town. We offer a lot other than just sports. And that used to bring a lot of people also. But the robotics, the robotics team has done wonders for highlighting what we can do. And the esports, I didn't even know what esports was when I recommended. Sure, I moved that we accept esports. I didn't know what it was. But after they explained it to me, it's a different niche for kids that aren't doing anything else.
Ryan, in addition to anything you can add to that, and also any message to the town council that they might be able to do to help increase the growth, the population growth, pull people into our school system?
Yeah, I mean, the school gets a per student budget from the state, so it's based on how many students there are. I think the big thing is marketing the town. Like, you talk about the robotics team, and I can't remember where it was. I just saw someone was posting about, oh, we got a robotics team now. It's really great. And I'm like, yeah, Bucksport's had one for years. It's fantastic. Where have you been? And I think that's something we should be really, really proud about as a town. And I think the town is really good about bringing that out and celebrating that in different ways. But, and we celebrate the sports. We, when they win championships, we do the parades through town. We bring the fire trucks out, all that stuff. Bringing more people into town would be great. I don't really know the answer to do that. It's a great little town, but at the same time, when you find something that's here to draw people here, and I don't know what that is right now, but.
Okay.
Yes.
The town needs more affordable housing, and that's a tough one. But they do need more affordable housing because a lot of our teachers don't live in Bucksport. They live in Bangor, Brewer, and if something opens up there, we don't want to lose them. We want them to stay in Bucksport. And also, I am very proud to take a stranger through this town, through Main Street, up around the schools, the facilities, the grounds. They're immaculate. It looks beautiful. The schools look beautiful. And this town should be very proud of what the facilities directors have done for the RSU 25. When people come in, and I'm sure you drive people around and say, this is what we offer for schools. It's impressive.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions that weren't submitted? That we have one coming? Okay. Yeah. Yes. There is one open seat. Yeah.
I agree. Too bad there's not two. Yeah. Ryan's a good man. But I want your vote.
Ryan, you have equal time. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Scott, but I agree. Let's put some new blood in there. Come on.
Ryan, we'll give you this one of the last ones here. How do you think we can promote the arts more, use of the Performing Arts Center? Can the RSU help with that at all?
That's a really great question. I didn't even think about the Performing Arts Center. I haven't been there in a few years. I think it'd be really great to bring in, maybe offer it to some outside entities to come in and perform in there, just so people knew it was there. It's a really, really great facility. I actually go quite often to the Bangor Playhouse and see the plays up there, but it'd be really great to have that in town, and offer something similar, have a set schedule. This is maybe the plays that are going for the year, so you can plan ahead. We really, really like it because we buy a season pass and we have a pretty well dedicated date night. We know we're going out to the play, like it's planned ahead of time. Maybe that'd be a great way to market some more stuff in the town. Like they could go to dinner in town, they could go to a play, kind of have some sort of deal there or something. But the Performing Arts Center is a really, really great facility, and I think that'd be great to see some more stuff in there and take in some more shows up there.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with what Ryan said. It is underutilized, but it takes someone to take it by the horns and do something with it. That's the problem. For several years, we had a summer musical going on every year. I think Joe Kennedy took it under his belt and everything. And now I just love going to something like that, and it's so close, but it is underutilized. We need to use a lot more, and it's now called Klain Auditorium, in honor of Peter Klain. But we need people to do it. We need people to organize it. It's there for the town to use, but someone's got to organize it. Not me.
And as we move to the council candidates, maybe we can ask for their thoughts on that as well. Well, that's all we have for the RSU, unless somebody has anything else for the RSU. Thank you very much, both of you. Great job.
I am going to get up and leave because I'm awake at 3:30 every morning.
You're welcome to go if you have to, and
if
you're
anyone would
welcome
like
to
to
stay
walk
if you'd
with me
like to.
at 4:45, your daughter walks with me sometimes. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to join the audience, listen to some of the other stuff. I don't have to be quite up as early as Scott, but.
Thank you. All right, well, let's move into the council portion of this, and we'll do sort of the same start point with introductions, and we are going to, where's my note? We're going to go in alphabetical order, if I can find my sheet here. Here we go. Alphabetical order to start, and we'll start with Paul Bissonnette. Please introduce yourself and what motivated you to run again for the town council, and what unique skills or experiences you bring.
Good evening, everyone. I am Paul Bissonnette. I am running for my third term on the council. I have been very fortunate this past year to be the mayor, which has been a very rewarding experience. Not for the reasons you might think, or maybe I need to do a better job of highlighting, but we have an exceptional town council here in Bucksport, and it has really, really been fun to be part of this group over the past year, especially, but certainly my past 5 years before that as well. The experience I bring, I manage a team of people at Athena Health in Belfast. I manage folks here in Belfast as well as in Chennai, India, and Manila, Philippines. I like to lead people. I'm one of those people that likes to be a people manager, so it is what it is. I was elected to the school board in Bucksport in the year 2000 when my hair was all one color, and I was 25 years old, and I was on the school board for 10 years and chair for 7. Took a little bit of time off and ran for the council in 2018 and was elected. There's a lot of reasons why I'm running again. Thank you. There's a lot of reasons why I'm running again. Mainly though, if I'm being honest, I like it. I like being on the town council. We're doing good work. There's a lot that we need to keep focusing on and working on. I have under a minute left, so I'm not going to have a lot of time to talk about those in my introduction. But I like being on the Bucksport Town Council. The council is doing good things. We made a lot of progress in the last, well, I'll say 5 or 6 years. Very proud of the efforts that we put forth during COVID as well. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. And next is, if my alphabet is correct, Mr. Chapman.
Yes, thank you. I'm Ralph Chapman, and just let me say quickly that there are 3 seats on the town council that are being elected this time around. Just to fill in case someone has a question about that. I've lived in Bucksport here for 5 years, lived in Brooksville for the preceding 29 years. I'm a former legislator. I represented most of the towns in the Blue Hill Peninsula in the state legislature for 8 years until I was termed out. Interestingly, the first question I was asked when I started my campaign for the legislature was, how do you feel about term limits? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't know how I felt about term limits. Well, now, after being in the legislature, I'm very much in favor of term limits, just to let you know. So one of the reasons that I'm running for the town council is that I've been to most of the council meetings in the past year. I got involved because I had a little bit of experience with dealing with a problem that faced and continues to face Bucksport right now, having to do with the private landfill between the River Road and the Silver Lake Road. And the problem that I've had experience with is what happens when a corporation tries to give a toxic waste facility to a town. And when the owner makes a favorable look at it, it's hiding the fact that there's a serious liability issue. So I've been helpful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Robs?
Thank you, Rob. I'm Paul Rabs. My wife and I moved here 12 years ago from Massachusetts, and I tell everybody that I wouldn't go back if they built the bridge direct. People ask me what I like about Bucksport. I have a one-word answer, and that's everything. Like Paul Bissonette here on the end of the row here, I enjoyed being on town council very much. I enjoyed the activity. At one point, I became the wingman for Sue Lassard, learning the ropes down at the Maine Municipal Association for the first year, and then I flew solo after that and got to vote on different issues down there, and enjoyed that. Enjoyed that also. Three key things that are driving, once again, for me are budget priorities, mill rate and taxes, and continuing with the current service levels that we currently have. I was looking through the spreadsheets the other day that Sue gave to us, and municipal budget now is $8.9 million, $5.2 million for education, $282,000 for the county payment. Basically, we're running a business of $14.5 million for the town of Bucksport, okay? And just like our households, where since COVID and we've had to adjust to different budget constraints and so forth, the town is going through the same thing right now. But let me share with you an example that several of us in the room were all on the town council at the same time a few years back. And aside from salaries and so forth, in 2015 and 16, the largest government expense that we had in Bucksport had to do with insurance and benefits package, $138,000. That's workers' comp liability, public officials liability, Social Security, on and on. The budget adopted for 24-25 is $1.869 million. That's what it costs to run a town, and I want to be part of it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Rabs. Next, Mr. St. Peter.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve St. Peter. I'm running for the third time. I believe that if I ran for town council and I get on, we need to help bring the people, the families, to Bucksport, like clean energy jobs. You know, we need to bring manufacturing to Bucksport, because what if Whole Oceans doesn't come to Bucksport? We need a tax revenue. So what I'm saying is, like, solar people, wind people, people that make batteries for homes and stuff like that. We also need to possibly invest in battery storage, because I know that when we had the big storms, house pizza lots, their lights and stuff like that, if we can help them out by giving them battery storage, I think that they would be able to, because it affects their jobs, you know, and their livelihoods. So if we can have more downtown businesses with solar panels and battery storage, I think that a lot of people would be a lot happier, because they can, you know, work and stuff like that. So also, we have great sidewalks, but we need to improve them for the people in wheelchairs and mobility scooters. And I have cerebral palsy, so it would be nice to have even, you know, after we had that work done on the sidewalks. So on the sidewalks, on the water mains and stuff like that. It would be nice if we had better sidewalks for people and if they were ADA accessible. Also, I love that we have 5 charging stations, but we need to do everything we can to market them because a lot of people don't know about the EV chargers. So I want to thank you, and go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And Sarah, I apologize. I should have had you in front of Mr. St. Peter. But, no, Sarah. Jennifer. You're Jennifer. Correct. Okay, go ahead, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
Good evening. Jennifer Tarian. And so I moved to Bucksport, my husband and I, 19 years ago when our son was 5 months old. So we've raised both our kids here and they've had fantastic experiences in the school system. And when they were in elementary school, I joined the RSU Curriculum Steering Committee and have served on that committee ever since, and I still do. And had a chance to work with many RSU 25 students in my job when I used to work in Bangor as the education director at the Challenger Learning Center. So been working with students and different communities for years, and then had an opportunity to work here in town doing the Aspire Golden Bucks initiative. Hopefully you've heard of it. And I write the newsletter every month to try to connect community members to the schools. And so I think I have a lot of skills. I think a strong council or group of any kind, you want to have diversity in opinions and also diversity in skills and experience to balance one another out and be able to share that information. So I've worked in the nonprofit world. I've also been a manager in hospitality and businesses back in my time that I was away from Maine. And then I like to solve problems and I like to build collaborations. So I think there's obviously a ton of possibility for that within the work on the council.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you're here. Sorry. And Mr. York.
Hi, my name's Joe York. I will say something. I am kind of like Moses from the Bible. I'm not a really good public speaker, so I do apologize about that, but I'll do the best I can. My the experience I have is I was a former council member with a 3-year term during the mill closure, and during that time there was a lot of things happening, and there's speculation on certain sides, but during that time, we had 2 managers, and we were somehow able to lower the mill rate with some creative ideas and help from the state government and whatnot, and I believe we had one of the lowest mill rates in quite a while. Now, there's a few concerns. As you all know, taxes went up tremendously last year, and there's another ballot question coming up, which could perhaps do, not going to say the same amount, but it is a large amount of money as well. And I'm not saying that I'm totally against it, but I think there should be a few different adjustments to it. A lot of it goes along with the sidewalks, and the parking is going to go from the parking we have now to parallel parking only, which will restrict the amount of vehicles on that area. So my goal is to try to help balance a budget and be part of it. And as the other former council members that have been up here, it does take 3 years before you can get good and understand. And but my goal would be to provide a voice for the people outside of the regular town limits as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think as we all know, and maybe there's work ongoing already on this, we'll start with Mr. Bissonnette. How soon do you think the council should actively begin the process, excuse me, of finding a new town manager?
candidates night 3 years ago, that was one of the issues that I brought up. And it's something that I've been talking about with the council off and on prior to being mayor. And it's something that the council has been very actively talking about as well. So that we're all on the same page in terms of Sue Lassard's employment here with the town of Bucksport. Her last day, if she doesn't change her mind, will be December the 31st. So it really, of all of the things that a town council does, it's hiring a town manager is one of the most important, and we're replacing a very, very good one, one who has a lot of experience. And so the process the process is one that is ongoing, and will begin in earnest sooner rather than later. And I think especially once we have the new council sat in January, that will be the group that is ultimately making the decision. That would be something that we would move towards then at that time. But I can assure you it is something that I have conversations about occasionally with council members, and we have talked about as well in public meeting.
Great. Thank you, Paul. And Mr. Chapman, again, this is something that 3 new councilors or 3 councilors, it could be an existing one, will deal with in the next session.
Yes, thank you. I think it's important as soon as possible to start the process. The council not only has to find another town manager, but also has to think about how the town management is structured. And those shoes are very hard to fill since the current town manager is doing such a good job. It may be that the job becomes a 2-person job in some sense, or there's other restructuring that might happen. All of those things need to be considered right off. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Rabs.
The process has already begun. My observation, the process has already begun looking. And back to what Paul was saying earlier, we still have some time with Sue, but just like in the case of our town clerk, Jackie will be leaving here at the end of the year. She's done a tremendous job. But now we have George, who's doing a yeoman's job over there right now, really picking it up. And he's finding out where the rocks are hidden and the right way to go about do things, working with and around Jackie all the time. And the point that we get a candidate for town manager up here and get him or her engulfed in the process and the way Sue works and her thought process, that would be wonderful. Having lived through the past of bringing in a couple, and we hired candidates that came from many, many states away, I really don't want to see us go through that again. I'd like to have a state of Maine person who's can talk the talk and walk the walk become our new town manager.
Thank you. Mr. St. Peter.
Okay, if we find someone that is adequate and they fit the mold, and I think as soon as we can get someone, yeah, it'd be kind of cool.
Thank you. Ms. Terry?
I agree that it is a long process and it will be difficult to fill Sue's spot. I've experienced it a little bit in this past year. In my work, I work out of the superintendent's office, so everyone there just went through the process of being prepared in advance for Mr. Boothby's retirement, and to see how it can be done really well. I mean, that was a process, and everyone knew what needed to be done, and the town is doing similar work in with the clerk's position and making sure that things don't fall through the cracks when you have that institutional knowledge over a long period of time. And I think being part of the council and being able to try to help find that person will be an important challenge, but I've sat on a number of hiring committees. When I was a school board member, I would sit in on hiring for teacher positions, and it's an interesting process to work through and make sure it's done fairly and thorough with the work with potential candidates. But I trust we will find an excellent candidate.
Thank you. Mr. York.
During my first council term was the time in which we hired Sue Lassard. I did not have a lot of input on that hire, but I am completely satisfied with the job that she's done, and the wisdom that she had was just astronomical and super great. Also, with that being said, I'm kind of on the younger side of the group of counselors in general, and I strongly think that somebody who, again, would have to be good at their job, but a younger, just not, I don't say younger, but I mean just bring in some new ideas for this next generation that we're moving into. So I hope to be more involved with the hiring of the next manager, and I'll definitely be there when they are hired.
Thank you. You can keep the mic. We'll start backwards on this one.
Fantastic.
If I can do it backwards, I didn't do it very well the
This is
first
super.
time,
This
but,
is great. Last name York.
so,
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
a couple questions were similar, and I think people have, it's on the minds of people. A couple people mentioned it up here, is the tax rate. And taxes have, the mill rate's been really, really good over a lot of years in Bucksport, and still is really, really good, even though I think the assessment changed things. What are your thoughts, or what might you be able to do, or your ideas for helping to lower the tax rate, keep costs down, help seniors with fixed incomes, taxes on water, sewer, all those sorts of things? Any thoughts around that?
So again, when I was on the council is when we were told that the second wastewater treatment plant had to be put in that year. We have fines or consequences for not doing so. And in doing so, it raised everybody's sewer and water bills by, like, I think 300%. It was a lot. But again, back to the question, I believe that the state should be more involved in some of our taxes. I think they should produce more funds towards the school budget. I actually do build houses, and that's another goal. I think that we should be expanding that. I've always said that Bucksport's kind of a bedroom community because it's literally 18 miles to Ellsworth, Belfast, or Brewer, and it's a great place to live. We've got all full services, full fire department, police department, and I just strongly I believe that the town also has property in value that maybe could be sold or given away to get back on the tax map, and I think that some of those ideas might be great. We also pay a lot for the Hancock County. I don't know if that can be revised or looked at as well. I believe our police department does a great job. There's a lot of them to cover their shifts and many other things. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would agree that it would be great to be able to expand the tax base, but when it comes to the budget itself, I have experience working through that on the school board budget, not the town budget up to this point. But I think it's similar in that you have a number of costs that are fairly set that you can't control, but one thing you can do is look for efficiencies. And I know there are already examples of this happening, but there are some really good collaborations that happen already between shared services, and especially between the RSU and the town. And I think looking for more of those opportunities, as well as trying to fund initiatives through grants like that are happening right now, so that we aren't always needing to add more to the budget. Obviously, that's a major concern for everyone.
Thank you. St. Peter?
All right, so I agree with Joe. The state does need to be involved in this, so.
Okay. Mr. Rapps?
A couple things. I agree with Joe about the the state becoming more engaged to help all of the municipalities throughout Maine. I think if we could get more money out of the state heading just a few percentage or a minimum amount heading towards our schools, that would help with our tax base. The other thing is possibly looking at the homestead, boosting that from $25,000 to $50,000 a year. That would help with our tax base. Joe mentioned the Hancock County. Well, if you read the latest newspapers coming out, the proposed budget for next year is $3 million over this year, and they're going to start with their, hopefully a chainsaw instead of an axe to have a go at it this week on that. There are a lot of, as Joe indicated, there's a lot of major things coming up here that we're going to have to make decisions on. The town dock estimate is around $4.1 million and still going up. On a positive note, way ahead of schedule, we're going to have our roads paid off in an additional almost 3 years now. That'll be paid off. I thought it was going to be 10, but it's down to 3. We've got other things. Our rainy day fund, when I was on council with Mr. Key back there, Joe and Robbie over here, our rainy day account was up at $6.5 million. Now it's down to $2.4 million. Not that that money has been misspent. It's gone to all the right places. All I'm saying is, back to my original point earlier, we're all under budget constraints. Everything has changed the last couple of years, and we've had to put out that money, and that's where it is. I also believe that there's a lot of budget priorities that we can squeeze in. I'm getting the red flag. I have to keep quiet here. We can look at maintenance, repair, and operations costs within the town and have another look at that and see where it takes us.
And as we go forward, if there are other questions, there'll be a couple other questions that you can, if you have something else to add, we certainly can add those in there. Mr. Chapman?
Yes, thank you. A major element of both the school budget and the municipal budget pays for people. And we have a certain number of services. Cutting the budget generally means cutting the services. Unless, as Jen said, one looks for efficiencies. Now, as a council member, it would seem to me to be very appropriate to encourage members of the public to offer for how to improve those efficiencies as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I get to go last. I think budgets, Paul Rabs mentioned this a moment ago, and it's something I talk about. Budgets really reflect priorities. End of the day, that's what they are. Your budget reflects the priorities of your town. And so the key for me, whether it was on the school board or here on the council, with budget development, which I love, by the way, I'm one of those people too. I love the budget. I won't go on. But it is really taking a look at what the priorities are. And as I get a little bit older, and I don't like to talk about it, but as I get a little bit older and thinking about how those priorities are going to be reflected in years moving forward, where I'm certainly not on the council or not around anymore, it's really making sure that you're taking a forward-looking approach while being efficient. List of things has gone up. I'm on the Hancock County Budget Committee. That's what I'll be doing Wednesday night, and every Wednesday night at least through October. And the projected budget right now coming from the commissioners is up 34%. And so, yeah, that chainsaw analogy might be a good one because that just isn't sustainable. But again, as we move forward and we take a look at the mill rate now compared to where it was 5 years ago pre-COVID, our mill rate is lower. I know valuation last year hit some people hard, and I think the council took the opportunity at that time to really drop the mill rate, understanding that valuation was going up, dropping the mill rate because we had an opportunity to do so because it only costs X amount of dollars to run the town. So I won't go beyond that except to say, again, budgets really, to me, reflect priorities, and I think we've done a really good job of matching the budget to the priorities set forth by the people here in town.
Would you like to jump in, Mr. Chapman, and then Mr. Rabb, we can follow up a little bit. Anybody else?
I just quickly wanted to mention that I've served on the Budget Advisory Committee of the town of Brooksville, and I've also served on the Hancock County Budget Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Rabb?
I just wanted to go back to a few of these big dollar items that are going to be coming along. Understand, I asked the town manager specifically, if we go over $663,000 over our current budget, that's going to raise your mill rate 1.0. So it's going to be very important that the existing counselors and whoever gets picked for the next going forward here, think about that. Every $663,000 is going to raise your mill rate 1.0.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to add anything?
It was a couple of years ago, but I saw a former principal, Kamashato, I think it was, and he told me that when he was in school, it was $1,200 a year per child. And I believe Mr. Fraser was telling me now it's $9,000 per child. So when they say that costs have gone up, that's definitely a number.
2,000? 2,000 a child. Okay.
Sorry, 2,000 was for a different number.
Let's make sure this is on. He is saying that Bucksport right now, the per pupil cost is $2,000 lower than the state average. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. And the interesting thing about the assessments for somebody that just sold a house in Bucksport, it's pretty good for me. And I think people are well aware of, the market is really been up. So for those that are selling, it's a good thing. For those maybe that have hit that. Go ahead.
About 25% of the population of Bucksport are seniors. I'm one, retired. And they live on Social Security. Some of them are lucky. They have annuities. They may have managed brokerage accounts. They may have pensions. Some of them don't have any of that. They're just back to Social Security. So, I mean, we've got to look out there, too, for the way we spend our money, because we don't need to. We've given seniors a seminar on how they can go to the state to help with their property taxes. We've given them seminars on scams that are coming along now. I don't want to see us to the point that we have another seminar on how to apply for food stamps. That's just not what we moved into Bucksport for. So.
Mr. York, did you add anything to add?
There's one more story also was that somebody mentioned that everybody whose property values have gone up, we should all go to the bank and get a home equity loan out for it and see how many of the banks will actually provide that. Because they, again, strongly believe that the house values aren't that much. So it's
Thank
kind
you.
of a story. Yeah.
Well, along those lines, there have been a lot of discussion over the years about business on Main Street, and some businesses are nonprofit. There are opportunities for business growth, and we can start. We'll go back. I think we ended with you last time, Mr. Bissonnette. Your thoughts about what the town can do to increase the businesses on Main Street, the businesses in the town, going forward.
A couple of main things that we have worked on and will continue to work on. I think we have to continue to market Bucksport well, effectively, using various means to do so. The brochures at the travel state, at the rest stops in Kennebunk serve a purpose, but we need to continue to expand our website. We need to continue to expand advertising, a normal radio, television, social media, that type of thing. That's an ongoing conversation. And let's go back to the tax rate for a minute. I think you have to have a tax rate that's affordable for people as well. When you look at a lot of the conditions, I'm not going to sit here at all and argue that the state of Maine has a comprehensive or even an effective property tax setup in terms of how it's just valuation, straightforward valuation, and you go from there. But again, as a council, you take a look at what you're doing, what is in the budget, what the priorities are moving forward for Main Street, as well as businesses off Main Street. But to keep it simple, it's really just making sure that you are reflecting the priorities of the people in town. And if the priority on Main Street is to build business, then you make sure your tax rate obviously stays low. Now, the other thing that I want to talk on really quickly, and I've seen that, is we all know that there's a conversation about rebuilding Main Street and doing some improvements to Main Street. I am in favor of that as long as it is done correctly. I want to be a big part of the conversation, but another group that has to be part of that conversation are the business leaders in Bucksport as well, including those on Main Street. I want to hear from all of them.
Thank you.
And following on the question about the rebuilding of Main Street, it's very important for the council to ensure that that process minimizes disruption. The businesses in Searsport took quite a hit on the disruption that happened there, and there are some reasons why Bucksport's in a better position than Searsport with respect to rebuilding, but it's important for the council to help minimize the disruption.
Thank you. Mr. Rabb?
There's two tales. There's two sides of this story. If you look up at the industrial park, just about every site is up there has been filled. Now, there's new buildings going up, even Dave's Auto Repair, we have the Lobster, we have the Mussels, and so forth. So it looks like the industrial park has been a success. Another success, the other night at one of the council meetings, was pointed out that American Cruise Lines, I think Richie Rotella last year said that we only had 8 ships come in. And the other night when he brought that up, we had already had 24 this year, and there have since been 4 more ships come in after that. And we're being, unlike Bar Harbor, we're being paid by the foot, not the foot and the passenger. So now, when it comes to storefronts on Main Street, we live here 18 miles from all the, the Bangor, the Brewers, and so forth, and you get to go to the Rennies, the Martins, the Home Depots, where you get maximize your discounts. You go to BJ's, you go to Sam's Club. That's the other side of the story. How do you deal locally? Best thing that ever happened, I thought, was last year when you got to the light. There was a banner right before they built that new house over there. Turn left, go to Bucksport, Now we're seeing advertisements on the TV. They're advertising the fort, the observation bridge. And, while you're here, go over the bridge, go to Bucksport, have an ice cream cone, get a pizza. We got to keep doing more stuff like that. We're not there yet. Trust me, whole oceans have sailed, no pun intended. Don't count on them. They've got too many issues now with the dam, the water rights, all that stuff going on. I'm getting red flagged again, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what was the question?
There has been a lot of discussion over the years. There are a number of buildings that are occupied by, I think, non-tax-paying, a few non-tax-paying entities. So the discussion has been, what can the council do to encourage more business in Main Street and tax
and beyond, right?
entities? Yeah.
So I know that there's a caveat that after Sawyer's is closed, they don't want any more car dealerships. We need to eliminate that and to get more businesses that will be a major draw to Bucksport. I mean, as it is, car dealerships bring the people, and I know that firsthand. We need to bring as many good paying jobs like clean energy, car dealerships, maybe like a steakhouse maybe. I would love to see something like that in Bucksport. We need to definitely get Park Street bustling with businesses. We have Family Dollar and stuff, so why not have like a big dealership right there? I think that would be great. And to bring young families to Bucksport, like the clean energy jobs, the car dealerships, and the stuff. I mean, Family Dollar is awesome, but we need to bring the people to Route 1 and to have good tax-paying jobs for young families to bring them here.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, it is still working. We aren't sure. Main Street is the heart of the community, right? And I think Bucksport has done a great job with the events on Main Street, the Wednesdays, and I think back to the heart and soul work, and several of you in this room were part of that. I think it's important to know all those things bring people to town, make people want to stay in town, and then businesses, don't necessarily have to literally be on Main Street in order to support the town. So I think it is a lot about promoting what is here, and I think there are many ways you can do that. I think we can boost social media presence and people just celebrating what's great about the community and finding out ideas from the community. So I started a Facebook and an Instagram page when I decided to run for council. So I would have a platform where I can have people reach out and have ideas and share those ideas. I think it's really important to have everyone work together on that. And it's an ongoing process, but we all know why it's great to live here. So we need to continue to share that message and make it okay, thank you. And a big thing for me has always been also promoting the schools. So people don't necessarily know about the amazing programs that do exist, and Mr. Fraser talked about a few of them tonight, but that's what will bring young families to the community.
Thank you.
I do apologize. One more time on the question?
Yeah, it's really around creating tax-paying businesses. What can the council do to promote more tax-paying businesses on Main Street and bring businesses to the town of Bucksport?
So I was actually part of the crew that built the new house at the traffic light, and when the gentleman came and asked us about putting the sign up, we were like, sure, no problem. And so I agree that bringing people here, well, we also have another situation, I believe, is the restaurants that we have. I think some of them close down during the winter time, and what we have is a school very near to us in Castine, and all those kids that are there head to Bucksport. They head to Bucksport to either they're looking for something to eat, or some of them, again, maybe want to go to just have a drink and something to eat as well. But otherwise, they have to turn and go all the way to Ellsworth, and I just believe that we should not cater to them, but also provide this option for us as well. Like we talk about Bar Harbor closes down during the winter for almost everybody, and I just think that providing Main Street with other restaurants or other shops is a great idea. But I was also on the council when they created the situation where a building on Main Street had to be, again, I apologize on the numbers, but like a third of it had to be for business only. And there was many people that had rentals that they had to give up or do something different. And I just don't know if that was the best option as well. But like you said, we can expand down from Main Street onto Route 1 towards Hammond Lumber and those places as well to provide other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, if you want, just a short.
Just real quick. I remain very optimistic about the property down the end of the street here with Whole Oceans, okay? I don't think we'll ever see a salmon farm come there, but if they're not going to come in, it's time to fish or cut bait, okay? If they're not going to come in, then let's get the land. It's a very large piece of property. It's too bad that they raised the mill. There was an opportunity to generate megawatts of electricity over there, high-pressure steam, et cetera, but yet, what do we still have? We have a large piece of property. We're only 20 miles from the interstate. We have natural gas. We have all kinds of electricity. We have all kinds of water. Let's be optimistic, and hopefully we'll get a good process industry that will come in and take over from Whole Ocean.
We'll go along those lines, and this may be where you're going, but one of the questions that just came in was about Whole Oceans possibly never opening. Now, they own the property, as I understand it. And what ideas do you have that Bucksport can make that site a big taxpayer entity?
Perfect. So during the process of the mill closure, I don't know if it came up with somebody from at the meeting or if it had somebody I'd talked to, but Microsoft company needs a large amount of saltwater coolant to run their fiber optic cables and other types of internet providing situation. And I think that area would be absolutely an awesome place for something like that. So like a Microsoft business that provides internet and whatnot goes along with that.
Thank you.
I think one thing to think about is that the town can't always say what is going to build, what is going to be somewhere. The town isn't managing or owning certain properties. But when it comes to trying to make the area of interest to certain businesses, I know there are many characteristics and features of the community that are beneficial, and one being the deep water port. So the access to we are so close to other major places, and we need to just keep promoting those things, which I know already happen. I know there's been many examples that Rich Rattell in Economic Development has done a great job in trying to find what's out there, who might be interested, and market Bucksport to the best that it can be. But I think to some degree, there are only so many things you can control when it's privately owned land.
Thank you.
We need to face the facts. Whole Oceans might not actually be there. So it'd be nice if we had something there, something either clean energy or like a data center. We need to bring the jobs here, because if not, it's just going to stay vacant for years and years. We need to say, hey, Whole Oceans, are you going to build or not? So we need to stop and think about the future, the tax base, and we need to think about jobs.
Thank you.
Well, I jumped ahead with the answer, and I really didn't see the question that was being written by whoever submitted it. So I've been red flagged so many times, and I've already given my answer. I'm going to turn the mic over to the two gentlemen beside.
You haven't been fact-checked yet, so don't, you're doing well.
So one of the things that helps entice businesses into a community is to support the arts in the community. Arts in the community is something that is community building and is something that's marketable, and it's something that improves the quality of life for those of us here already.
I'll preface what I'm about to say with this. At Candidates Night 3 years ago, we talked about Whole Oceans. I am not about to sit here, and I am not an advocate for Whole Oceans, but the state of the state is this. They own the property, they pay the taxes, and they've kept the permits active. They have not given us any indication that they are not going to follow through with what they intend to do on that site. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second. What the town manager continues to work on, and I've had multiple conversations with her, and I'm sure other members of the council have as well, is we would like to have a conversation with leadership at Whole Oceans, which has undergone, through the pandemic, some pretty substantial changes. So there are some reasons, at least that they provided, as to why things have been delayed as much as they have been. So I certainly, as being on the council, and if I remain on the council, would want to take part in those conversations to find out what their priorities are, find out what their timeline is, and then have a productive conversation, depending on how that goes, to basically say, okay, but what are we going to do moving forward? Based on everything you've heard from the people that have spoken before me, in terms of that is it's a high profile site in terms of the potential of its use.
Thank you, Paul. Climate change is out there. We're seeing a major storm that just passed that's affecting the southeastern United States dramatically. Can you give us your thoughts on climate change and what, if anything, the town council can be doing to prepare for the continuing changes in the climate?
Absolutely. I think if you live here, here's what you've observed in the last couple of years. You've observed on our waterfront several storms that would have been classified as storms of the century, or storms of the storm that might happen every 25 years, and we had 2 of them last winter. So let's get pragmatic for a minute. What we need to talk about is if we are going to continue to have the waterfront that we do, as active as it is, with a waiting list at our marina, because it is going so well there. We need to be looking 5 and 10 years into the future and saying, what is the marina going to look like then, and what do we need to prepare for that, as well as the waterfront. We're talking about making improvements to the waterfront. We need to account for the fact that sea levels are rising. And I'm no expert on that, but the experts that talk to us are accounting for that when they do the engineering on those projects. When they do the engineering, or when they begin to talk about, here's what you would need to consider as you're taking a look at your waterfront, they are talking about the sea levels rising. I read an article in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago down in Stonington. His name is escaping me, but he had to replace his wharf down there because Stonington had that rough storm. Private landowner, they suggested, and please forgive me if I have the numbers wrong, but they suggested, I believe, that he raised his wharf 1.5 feet, and he raised it 4 feet. I'm a Watergate nut. It just is what it is, and I have lived by some rules, and one of them is follow the money. And when private money is going towards that type of effort, you can be assured that it's something that we need to be paying attention to.
Thank you.
For the very reason, excuse me, that you mentioned of climate change creating changes, and those changes are going to continue. I offered to be on and have served on the Resilience Committee here in town. And the first things that we looked at were what to do in case of emergencies, and how does the emergency response system work, and what problems does it have, and how can that be improved, especially for our vulnerable populations. And then additionally, it's what specific things can we do to help not only emergency situations, but deal with the encroachment of water level rising, the likelihood of additional power failures, and things of that sort. So work on the Resilience Committee has been a worthwhile activity, and something that I plan to continue with.
Thank you.
Well, to begin with, I'm disappointed about the climate because I love snow. And last year we should have had 8 feet of snow and we only got 4. And that really disappointed me. I've got all the toys down at the house, plows and everything, and chainsaw. So to only have that small amount of snow is a disappointing winter. But there's an old joke that goes, when you're out in the middle of the lake in a canoe and the thunderstorm's coming over, you pray to God, but you row towards shore. And by that I mean, we have a lot of big budget items coming up, but we're still going to have to buy new fire trucks, new dump trucks, new police cruisers. We have to maintain our services and give them the best possible equipment to go out on these storms and open up the roads and respond to emergencies. And I think that's going to be my response. I'm still going to be out on that canoe, but I'm going to row toward shore, and we're going to have to continue to give our people the resources to get the job done.
Thank you. Go ahead, Steve.
This is a subject that I love, climate change. I've been into climate science since I was 8 years old, 1984. We gotta really just start thinking about the future, our kids, our grandkids, the impacts and implications of climate change. We need to start investing in battery storage, getting more electric vehicles in Bucksport, because that right there is going to help dramatically. But we also need to focus on the waterfront itself, because we could lose residential, commercial. I don't know how far it would go, but it would ruin a lot of land and buildings, and I just want to make sure that we have Bucksport for the next generation. So that's why I'm always fighting, and that's why I want to get on town council. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I was given an interesting title, I'm not sure, more than probably 15 years ago, when I became a NASA Earth Ambassador. And that doesn't mean I'm here to greet the aliens when they come. It was a title because I worked with the NASA Educator Resource Center out of Bangor, and I was able to go to Goddard Space Flight Center, which is NASA's Earth Science facility, and to listen, to be able to share with people some of the NASA research that was going on at that time. And I've never been one, and NASA is an organization that doesn't tell people how to think, but they will give you the data, and you can process it and do with it what you believe. So I've been following that that information for a long time, and looking at the severity of storms, and knowing that they were predicting that there would be higher storm surge and more rain, more intense events. And we are seeing that, as we all know, we've seen that. And the waterfront is a major issue. My son and I both attended the waterfront resiliency meeting at the end of the summer, and he's worked for a couple summers now on the waterfront, so he's helped put those bricks back in place and cleaned up all that brush and everything, and had a firsthand experience with that. So it was interesting to hear his perspective and to sit in the council room with our harbor master and people from the highway committee to be able to say, what are you seeing? What do you think is needed? And I think that's what we need to continue to do, is to take in these different voices and make responsible decisions.
Thank you.
He is on it.
It's a tough job.
As far as climate change, for me, I still know it as Mother Nature. I also, again, with certain data that has been given, that Maine is not the one that's causing these storms or whatnot that you call. But with that being said, when I was on the council the last time, the marina was owned by somebody else. Like the town did not take the marina over until later. But during that time, the marina was making lots of, it was paying for itself. And I truly believe that taking care of the marina is definitely a focus of ours. And I believe that whatever kind of data that we do have that we can use for that to build it, make it stronger, and be able to provide more spaces for it is definitely a priority as well.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
The marina continues to pay for itself. Our harbor master's here. He could talk much better about it, but I will just say, since he's right here, it is very, very effectively run. We have a waiting list, and Mike manages that very, very well.
Thank you. Okay, we're down to, I've got us down to 3 minutes left with about 8 questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for, I hate to shortchange the question, but just a yes or no on, first of all, the question was thoughts on AIM and the future of the landfill, and we don't have time if we're going to stick to the 9 o'clock deadline, but yes or no, do you support the way, well, you're on the town council right now, the way the town's position, the town's position on how we're doing with the landfill issue, I should say.
All right, this isn't going to be yes or no, but I'll do my best. I feel like I'm not known for my patience in every situation, but I feel like in my role and in the council's role, we've been very, very patient with AIM as well as the DEP to follow the process that has been established moving forward and to keep people, both the DEP and AIM know that Bucksport is paying attention now. Period.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a major issue, and I've been trying to be as helpful as I can with it. We have at least two major problems. One is AIM, and the other is the DEP. And when I say the DEP is a problem, what I mean is that we need their help, and at the same time, the department is not really an enforcement agency. They have not yet started any enforcement action on the landfill, which has been out of compliance for many years, and they even issued orders, written orders to the company, which they then verbally rescinded. So we're actually battling two large entities, and it's tricky because AIM has far more lawyers than the town and far more money to continue. In fact, they have a history of having sued towns 4 times larger than Bucksport, tying them up in litigation for 6 years, just fighting a local ordinance. Well, we put in place a local ordinance. We have to put in place some more protections of the same sort.
Thank you.
I think when it comes down to AIM, the landfill, the dams, the water rights, it's going to come down to the lawyers. It's going to depend on the way contracts have been written with Maine Water. You know, out here in Orland, we have the fish hatchery. That hatchery is the second oldest operating hatchery in all of the United States. And, you know, they haven't stepped up to the plate yet. I think it's just sad to say it's going to come down to lawyers. You know, we can have all the committee meetings we want, and the DEP is going to get involved, but the lawyers.
Thank you.
We need to hold AIM accountable. We do not want to lose our water rights and the quality of water, so.
Thank you.
I would say this is an example of where you need to move slowly and carefully, and I think Sue Lassard has given good advice to the council in keeping everyone informed as to what's happening. I think you just have to follow the process.
Thank you.
My council vote is for Paul Rapp.
Thank you. Well, I apologize for a couple questions. So one I'll just read because I don't think it's a controversial question at all. Let's see. One way to get people interested in coming to town would be beauty, decoration, and lights. Would you all support that in some shape or manner or form? I mean, okay, all right. Just want to make sure that got covered. Well, we're at our time, and I want to thank you all for your answers. I know there are a lot of issues out there, and you probably could talk for a lot longer, but in the interest of keeping everybody on schedule and the expectations that were set, we're at our end. So thank you very much, and thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, George. And, thank you, Don, and down at the Enterprise. There are refreshments over there if anybody would like refreshments. And I figured out after